The point of this video is to help you find your own truth about osteoporosis and osteopenia, because the reality is there's more than one possible underlying cause for osteoporosis. So if the same protocol is being handed out to everyone, how can it possibly work for everyone if two different people have two different causes that's creating their osteoporosis? So the standard thing that we're all told to do is if you have osteoporosis or you're having concerns about osteoporosis, you need to eat all the dairy. So anywhere within a 3-block radius of your home, if any of those people have dairy, you need to take that dairy from them and you need to consume it. You also need to take pounds of calcium carbonate, and wait till you hear about the reality behind this mess. And we're also told to take a vitamin D dose the size of a camel or a small pickup truck. And it's true that vitamin D is required to kind of help this bone situation improve, but wait till you hear about the problems that too much vitamin D can create. So by the end of this video, you're going to understand that the medical world has already proven that the advice that the medical world is handing out might not be so great. And you're going to understand how to find your own truth. And you're also going to see some steps that have helped some people really turn this thing around. You cannot miss this.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So with osteoporosis, it's explained to us that, well, these bones are made of calcium. So if you have osteoporosis where you're losing this bone mass, then you need more calcium. So you need to eat all the dairy. Look, all these dairy foods contain a lot of calcium, so you need to eat those. So that's what we've been doing for a long time. But there's studies now, and I'll put the link in the description below, that are actually showing this to be the opposite. And that people, the more dairy that they're consuming, the higher their risk for osteoporosis. And there's a variety of opinions why this is happening, and some people think that the dairy creates this acidic situation that's like melting down the person's bones. But a lot of people also feel like that the form of calcium in the dairy makes it harder to assimilate it. So we see the calcium there in the petri dish. The problem is that we don't have the ability to assimilate it as well, and this could be part of the problem. In my opinion, is that a lot of dairy products are processed in a way that make it not really a real food, and it's not really fit for human consumption, and that's creating a stress to the body, and these stress situations seem to be able to magnify some of the situations that we're going to talk about today. So that may be part of what's going on as well. I'm not saying nobody should eat dairy. A lot of people do fine with dairy, but it is plain to see now that it can be problematic for a lot of people, especially milk. And this is something that they're really shoving down our gullet. If there's osteoporosis issues, you got to drink all the milk. But you'll see in the link below in that study that it just seems to be making things a lot worse for most people. So let's look at why the bone may not be getting rebuilt like it should. The human body kind of rebuilds itself, so let's look at some problems that could be creating this or causing it to deteriorate. You know, we used to be told that osteoporosis is like an autoimmune issue, and your immune system is confused and your body's attacking your own bones. But let's just pretend for a minute that the body isn't an idiot and it's not attacking its own bones, so let's look at some things that could be causing it to deteriorate so rapidly. So here's how it works. The body has all of these functions that it has to do in order for us to exist as a human. You know, to get up and walk to our car, that takes energy. We all understand that. But there's a lot of functions that happen that require things like minerals and amino acids and vitamins and fats and all these other type of nutrients that need to be used in order for the body to carry out these functions. So did you know that's kind of why we eat food? We don't eat food because it's delicious. We eat food so the body can access all the nutrients in that food. Here's the problem. The body can't do anything with a peanut butter sandwich. It can't function on a peanut butter sandwich. It would be like you trying to put crude oil in your gas tank. Your car is not going to go very far. So for our body to be able to use the nutrients in the food we consume, that food has to be broken down into amino acids and vitamins and minerals and broken down dietary fats so the body can use all these things for all the functions that it has to carry out. So here's how it works. When we eat food, our stomachs make hydrochloric acid or stomach acid. This is called HCl. And that helps us to start acidify that food so that it can be broken down properly. And then once the food's acidified, it goes into the duodenum, which is the first 10 inches of the small intestine. And that's where the gallbladder squirts this alkaline bile down onto the acidic product that left the stomach. So it's this acid product meeting an alkaline pH product, and when they hit together, they create a sizzle. And that sizzle really helps us bust that food apart and pull all the nutrients out of that food. Here's the problem. It's really common these days for someone not to be making enough stomach acid and they can't acidify that food. And it's really common for someone's bile to become too thick and sticky to flow correctly, and then that alkaline bile isn't coming down and neutralizing those acids. So if either side of digestion is not working correctly, we don't get that real sizzle and we're not really getting all the nutrients out of the food that we're eating. So here's where the real problem comes in. When you're not bringing those nutrients in and supplying your body with the nutrients it needs to function, your body's going to get those nutrients anyways. It gets those nutrients by shopping at the 7-Eleven. The problem is you're the 7-Eleven. So when those nutrients aren't coming in, the body has backup plans. And one of those backup plans is that it has the ability to break down tissues or bones and access the nutrients in those tissues and bones so that it can use them to carry out the functions that it needs to function. Now, the plan is just, I'm just going to break this down. I'm going to use this in a pinch, and then I'll build that back up when I get these more nutrients come in. So it has this great backup plan, but there's a price that it has to pay, especially if it continues to use that backup plan. It's just like if we shop at the 7-Eleven. The 7-Eleven is convenient. It's right down the street. We can often just walk to it. But when we go in, we pay more for what we're getting, and we walk out with this little tiny container of laundry detergent. It makes it feel like a giant when we're carrying it out of the store, so we're not getting as much. So it's easy, it's quick, but there's a price that we pay when we shop at the 7-Eleven. Same with the body. If it continues to shop at its own 7-Eleven, it's going to start deteriorating things like muscles and tissues and even bones, and guess what? Even organs. Here's the hint. You kind of need your organs. So you really don't want your body always shopping at the 7-Eleven just so that it can complete the functions that it needs to function on a day-to-day basis. And the real ripoff is that sometimes the body isn't even looking for calcium. It might just be looking for things like phosphorus or other minerals, and it'll pull these things out of the tissues or the bones, and then it'll use up the nutrient that it was looking for, but since calcium came with it, it just kind of drops the calcium, and now there's this free calcium floating around. The body's got to try to figure out how to get rid of it. So with osteoporosis, we're all told, you got to bring in more calcium. And if a person is not bringing enough calcium into the system, and we'll talk about some of the things that can create that here in a minute, but if they're not bringing in enough calcium, it certainly can create this osteoporosis issue. So that could be the cause for some people. But the reality is that most people actually do have enough calcium in the system. It's just in the wrong place due to one of these malfunctions going on. So we never hear about digestive malfunctions being a problem when it comes to osteoporosis. And I'm talking about any type of digestive symptoms like burping or bloating or constipation or diarrhea or acid reflux or nausea or even like skin or acne issues. All of these are really strong signs that digestion is not working correctly. And we don't hear about digestive symptoms relating to osteoporosis, but the signs are there. We hear a lot about the connection between amenorrhea, or when a girl loses her period too early, that there's a connection for an increased risk of osteoporosis. And we also hear about the connection between long-term PPI use and osteoporosis, and I'll put the link to that study down below. But when a girl is losing her period, or she's not showing up as often, maybe she goes a few months without it, this is most commonly caused by a lack of minerals and nutrients coming into the system because the girl is not breaking down her food correctly and accessing all of those nutrients. So Mother Nature kind of turns off that reproductive system so that all the nutrients don't go towards this baby, that the mother doesn't have enough resources to build. It takes a lot of resources to build a human. And we'll put a link in the description below this video on our video explaining how to correct irregular periods, and you'll see that it's really about proper digestion, getting the nutrients out of the food and bringing those into the system. Well, what happens when you take a PPI medication? PPIs are made to turn off stomach acid, so it removes that symptom of acid coming back up the esophagus. So PPIs work by turning off stomach acid. Well, if you turn off stomach acid, you're turning off the digestive process. Stomach acid is half of that digestive process. So if the stomach can't be acidified correctly, then the food can't break down properly and you can't access all the nutrients in there. So if someone's on this long-term PPI use, or they're taking antacids all this long time, or they just have their digestion kind of not working correctly for a wide variety of reasons, then the nutrients are not coming in and the body has to continue to shop at the 7-Eleven. And the more tissues it breaks down, the more bone that it pulls nutrients out of, all these things become weaker, and then we can end up with these osteoporosis type issues. So the weirdest part about all this is that it makes sense. So maybe the body isn't just attacking itself, or maybe the person just doesn't feel like, rebuilding bones, or my mom didn't rebuild bone well, she had osteoporosis, so I must have it too. It just doesn't seem to be how it works. It's more about how the body's functioning and using its backup systems for long-term survival. So what we see with our clients is that when they can correct digestive function and bring more nutrients into the body and give the body the nutrients it needs to rebuild tissues and bones, that all of a sudden these numbers start to improve for them. They start to have more bone mass and start moving in the right direction instead of continuing down the wrong path. And the real problem is that the most common advice seems to have the ability to magnify some of these issues for some people. So whether they're taking the wrong type of calcium, or whether they're using the wrong vitamin D dose for their unique body chemistry, it seems to have the ability to create more trouble. So jump over now to our video on 4 osteoporosis mistakes to understand that these crazy mistakes that people are making when they're trying to correct the problem that seem to have the ability to make it worse. You don't want to miss that one.